The deal was this. Since the Reds wanted wealth, it was to be theirs. The firstborn of each generation would be more wealthy than the one before it. And through the ancestors of that firstborn, the boom would continue, as long as there was a male heir, and as long as two conditions were met. 1. Since the Reds liked England so much, the eldest heir of each generation must be named either George or William. 2. That eldest male, be he George or William, had to move and live to the west of the previous eldest male, George or William. The goal of the pact was mostly to get the Reds out of town forever, as they'd have to keep moving west, and to the west one didn't have to go far to reach the sea. Plus, the first male clause pitted the brothers into a child-producing battle. The brothers themselves made a pact amongst themselves. They'd all move in mass as one to America, and not until they touched foot on the soil of that land would the procreation race begin. After that, each man for himself. And that's exactly what they did. Yes, I'm from the line of Williams and Georges that won. My ancestors did well in New York, and then in Ohio, and then in Missouri. That's where they were when the US Civil War broke out. The east bank of the Missouri River, across from Kansas territory, is where most of them lived. Some, fewer, on the lower west bank. Old habits die hard. The river was not only a border between Kansas territory and Missouri, but upriver was Union held. To the south lay the Confederacy. On the Kansas side of the river, it was easier to get horses. Horses purchased further west. In Missouri was a market for horses and salt. Soon my red ancestors were busy moving both across the Missouri. They sold to whoever had gold. The next generations moved barely deeper west into Kansas. As was bound to happen, sooner or later things hit a snag. Around 1872 a series of missteps occurred. The Boone got muddled up. Forgive me, I need to backtrack a bit, to supply some info I should have shared before. 1. The brothers on down made it a point to have nothing to do with English women. Their mates were Scots, or the Welsh, or anyone else, but not English girls. 2. The line I was with named the eldest heir alternatively. George, then next generation William, then George. This wasn't stipulated in the pact, the alternating, just that they be George or William. I think my line did this more just to keep track more easily of each generation. Okay, so there was a George. He owned the bank. West of the Missouri, of course. The bank was flush, as was expected too. Then they sold some land to the railroad, and whoa, even more money. But then there was an economic downturn. Money was scarce. But not for George, so he decides to loan it all out. At high rates. What could go wrong? He lost it all. He lost the bank. He lost almost all of the remaining land they owned. He kept one homesteaded plot of fair farmland, the westernmost bit of land he owned. There George had to work hard, farming.